Afib treatment is not just about stopping palpitations. It's not just about avoiding the emergency room. And it's definitely not just about choosing between pills or a procedure. The real question is this: can ablation actually change the future of your heart? Can it help you stay in normal rhythm longer? Can it improve a weak heart? The question nobody answers clearly enough is this: what does ablation actually do? Like this video by hitting the button below and subscribe to our channel for clear, evidence-based AFib guidance so you can make the right decisions for your heart. If you or someone you love has been diagnosed with atrial fibrillation and you're just sitting there wondering whether ablation is actually worth it, this video is going to give you the clearest, most honest answer you've ever heard. Because here's the problem. Most people with AFib get one or two things from their doctor, either a prescription or a medication they'll be on for the rest of their life, or a referral for an ablation procedure that nobody has properly explained to them. Not in vague terms, not in medical jargon, but in real, measurable, life-changing outcomes. What does it do? That's exactly what I'm going to cover today. 3 major clinical outcomes of Afib ablation. All 3 backed by the most current research, including a landmark 2025 meta-analysis published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. By the end of this video, you'll know what an ablation can realistically do for your rhythm, your heart function, and your long-term survival. And you'll have everything you need to walk into your next doctor's appointment with confidence. So let's get into it. A lot of patients believe that managing AFib is just about control. Take a pill, keep the heart rate down, avoid the worst episodes. And if the symptoms are too bad, just live with it. Here's why that thinking is dangerous. AFib is not just an inconvenience. Uncontrolled AFib is a progressive disease. It remodels your heart over time. It increases your risk of stroke. It weakens your heart muscle. And the research now shows very clearly that patients who stay on medication alone without achieving rhythm control face significantly worse long-term outcomes than patients who pursue ablation. This video is for you if you've been on antiarrhythmic drugs and you're still having episodes. It's for you if you've been told ablation is an option, but you're not sure if it's worth it. And it's for you as well if you just want to understand what science actually says, not what a drug company wants you to believe. You don't need a medical degree to understand this. You just need the right information. And that is what we're going to give you right now. All right, 3 outcomes. Let's go through each one clearly. Outcome number 1, freedom from AFib, stopping the arrhythmia from coming back. This is the most well-documented benefit of ablation, and the numbers are striking. In the Cabana trial, the largest randomized clinical trial ever conducted on this subject, roughly over 2,200 patients, catheter ablation produced roughly a 50% reduction in recurrence of AFib compared to the antiarrhythmic drug group. That's a hazard ratio of 0.52. In plain English, patients who had an ablation were half as likely to have their AFib come back compared to patients on medications. But it gets better. In the early AF trial, recurrent arrhythmias happen in about 43% or so of ablation patients versus 68% of patients on drugs at just the 1-year mark. And the STOP AF trial, the first trial, only 25% of ablation patients actually had a recurrence compared to 55% on medication. And for patients who already failed antiarrhythmic drugs, the STOP AF trial showed a 70% treatment success rate with ablation versus 7% with continued drug therapy at 1 year. 7%. Think about that. If you've already tried medications and they haven't worked, staying on drugs gives you a 7% chance of success. Ablation gives you a 70%. Now here's a long-term picture. A large single-center study of over 5,200 patients showed that after a final ablation procedure, more than 80% of paroxysmal AFib patients, that's the type that comes and goes, were still AFib-free at 5 years. At 10 years, that number was 72%. At 15 years, it was still 62%. And for persistent AFib, the numbers are lower, but still meaningful. 60% free at 5 years, 50% at 10 years. And here's the key insight. After year 2, the late recurrence rate drops to just about 2% per year. So once you get through that first 2-year window, your chances of staying in normal rhythm are very strong. If a first ablation doesn't fully work, a repeat procedure improves success rates significantly. This is not a one-shot deal with no backup plan. And outcome number 2, reduced mortality, living longer. This is the outcome that gets people's attention, and the evidence has gotten dramatically stronger in recent years. A 2025 meta-analysis published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, analyzing data from thousands of patients across multiple randomized control trials, found that catheter ablation reduced all-cause mortality with a relative risk of 0.73. That means a 27% reduction in the risk of dying compared to patients managed with meds alone. A separate meta-analysis of 24 trials covering over 5,700 patients reported a 30% relative risk reduction in all-cause mortality. It's not a small signal. That's a consistent, reproducible finding across dozens of studies and thousands of patients. Now, the mortality benefit is most pronounced in a particular group. Patients who have AFib combined with heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, that's a condition where the heart's pumping function is weakened. In the Castle AF trial, published in a New England journal back in 2018, showed that ablation in these patients significantly reduced the combined risk of death and heart failure hospitalization. The mortality benefit emerged clearly after about 3 years of follow-up. A meta-analysis of 12 trials confirmed this. In patients with reduced ejection fraction, ablation reduced all-cause mortality with a relative risk of 0.63. That's a 37% reduction in mortality in the highest risk patients. The bottom line, ablation doesn't just make you feel better. In the right patients, it helps you live longer. And outcome number 3, reduced heart failure hospitalization, keeping you out of the hospital. This one matters enormously for quality of life because hospitalizations for heart failure are not just scary, they're expensive, they're exhausting, and each one carries its own risk. The 2025 Annals of Internal Medicine meta-analyses found that ablation reduced heart failure hospitalization with a relative risk of 0.68, 32% reduction compared to medical therapy. And the same analyses found covering, again, 2,100 patients, both AFib and heart failure, ablation reduced heart failure hospitalizations from 22 down to 15%. And on top of that, it improved left ventricular ejection fraction, the measure of how well your heart pumps, by an average of about 5 percentage points. And that's not a trivial improvement. That is your heart getting measurably stronger. And a 2024 meta-analysis in JAMA Cardiology confirmed that this benefit is driven primarily by patients with reduced ejection fraction, where the relative risk reduction was 41%. Even in patients with preserved ejection fraction, a group historically thought to benefit less, more recent data published in late 2025 is showing meaningful reductions in composite outcomes, mortality, and even stroke risk. The science is moving fast, and it is moving in one direction, towards ablation. Now, let's address the concerns you're probably already thinking about. Is ablation safe? The honest answer is it carries real risk by nature of being a procedure, and you should know what they are. The most common complication is vascular access related, meaning at the site where your catheter enters your body. And that happens in about 1.3% of cases. More serious complications include cardiac tamponade, where fluid builds up around the heart, in less than 1.5% of cases. Stroke or TIA in less than 1%. And a rare but serious complication called esophageal fistula in about 0.2% in radiofrequency or cryoablation, not so much in pulse field. Those numbers are scary, but the context matters. Complication rates have dropped significantly over the last decade. Overall, complication rates fell from 5.3% down to 3.7%, and more recently down to 1.2%. So the technology is safer than it ever has been. What if I have a recurrence after ablation? And that happens in about 30 to even 40% of patients after a first procedure. But a repeat ablation improves success rates, and even patients who have recurrences often significantly reduced AFib burden, meaning fewer episodes, shorter episodes, and less severe symptoms. Do I still need blood thinners after ablation? Yes. Current guidelines recommend continuation of anticoagulation based on your individual stroke risk, called the CHADS-VASc score, regardless of whether your ablation was successful or not. Ablation reduces AFib, but it does not eliminate your underlying stroke risk factors. Important concept to know. Here's the vision I want you to hold on to. Imagine 12 months from now, your heart is in a normal rhythm. You're not waking up at 3 in the morning with your chest pounding. You're not canceling plans because you're afraid of an episode. And you're not watching your life get smaller because of a condition that could potentially be treated. That is not a fantasy. That is what the data shows is possible for the majority of patients who pursue ablation with the right team and the right plan. Here's your challenge for this week. Have the conversation. If you've been on the fence about ablation, take this information to your cardiologist or your electrophysiologist. Ask them specifically about your AFib type, your ejection fraction, and whether the evidence supports ablation in your particular case. You now have a vocabulary to have that conversation. If you want a complete roadmap, not just information, but a real action plan for fighting AFib and reclaiming your rhythm, go to fightafib.com. There's a free AFib action plan that I created for you right there. It's built specifically for patients who are done just managing symptoms and who are ready to restore their rhythm and reclaim their life. It covers your treatment options, the questions to ask your doctor, and the lifestyle steps that the research actually supports. So again, go to fightafib.com. It's completely free. If this video helped you, then by all means, please support the channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop a comment below. Are you currently on medication or have you already had an ablation? You know I read every single comment. And I'll see you in the next video.